Supreme Overlord Vexthor of the Kraxan Empire stood before the Strategic Council, his crystalline exoskeleton gleaming under the purple light of their command center's quantum displays. The holographic projection of Earth rotated slowly before them, a seemingly insignificant blue marble in the vast expanse of space. This species hasn't even established a permanent presence beyond their moon, he declared, mandibles clicking with barely concealed disdain. Their planetary defense systems are primitive, and they still burn fossil fuels for energy. The conquest should take no more than one lunar cycle. Admiral Naira, her silver scales rippling with concern, stepped forward. Supreme Overlord, with respect, our preliminary scans indicate some anomalies. Their technological progress over the last century has been exponential. They've gone from primitive flying machines to rudimentary space exploration in less than 100 orbital cycles. Vexthor dismissed her concerns with a wave of his upper appendage. All developing species show such growth spurts, Admiral. It means nothing. There's more, Naira persisted, manipulating the holographic display. Their information networks are unlike anything we've encountered. They possess no central control, yet somehow maintain incredible efficiency. And their entertainment. The display filled with thousands of images, movies, books, games, art, all depicting encounters with alien civilizations. Some showed peaceful first contact, others depicted humanity triumphant against invading forces. They've been imagining us, Naira explained, in countless variations, for generations. They've mentally rehearsed this moment more times than we can calculate. Intelligence Director Krell, usually silent during such briefings, suddenly spoke. Our behavioral analysis suggests another concerning factor. Unlike most species we've conquered, humans exhibit extreme variability in their problem-solving approaches. When faced with identical challenges, different human groups devise radically different solutions, yet somehow maintain the ability to rapidly adopt and improve upon each other's innovations. Vexthor's irritation grew. The Kraxan Empire had conquered 17 star systems through superior technology and disciplined military might. Their methodology was perfect, refined through millennia of successful campaigns. These concerns were merely the overcautious ramblings of academics. Enough, he commanded. Begin the standard conquest protocol. Deploy the first wave of consciousness probes. Let's see how these humans handle real alien contact, not their fictional fantasies. Within hours, the first probes entered Earth's atmosphere. The Kraxan expected panic, chaos, perhaps even mass hysteria as their devices began broadcasting their presence across human communication channels. Instead, something unprecedented occurred. Within minutes of the first broadcast, humans worldwide began sharing information at an astonishing rate. Their social networks exploded with analysis, comparing the probe designs to their fictional counterparts, crowdsourcing translation attempts of the Kraxan messages, and most disturbingly, beginning to theorize about potential weaknesses in the probe technology. Director Krell's voice carried a note of alarm as he reported, "They're treating our psychological warfare as a puzzle to be solved collectively. Their civilian population is displaying military-grade information security protocols that we've never seen emerge spontaneously. They're redacting sensitive details while simultaneously sharing critical analysis across global networks." Admiral Naira's scales had darkened to a deep gray. Supreme Overlord, they've already begun adapting their defensive systems. Somehow, they're using their entertainment media as a framework for organizing their response. Military units worldwide are implementing protocols they've apparently extracted from something called video games and science fiction manuals. Vexthor felt the first stirring of uncertainty in his crystalline core. The humans weren't following any of the predicted response patterns. Their chaos was somehow ordered, their fear transformative rather than paralyzing. As he watched their rapid mobilization, he realized that humanity's seeming weakness, their fragmented, decentralized nature, might actually be their greatest strength. Impossible, he muttered, but the displays told a different story. Human nations that had been rivals moments ago were already establishing cooperation protocols. Scientists were sharing data freely across borders. Their military responses showed coordination that should have taken years to develop. "They're not treating this as an invasion," Krell observed with a mix of awe and horror. "They're treating it as a validation of their preparations. Every story they've told themselves about this moment is becoming a template for action." The first probe fell silent, its systems overwhelmed by a type of cyber attack that shouldn't have been possible with Earth's technology level. As Vexthor watched more probes go dark, he realized that his empire's greatest mistake hadn't been underestimating human technology, it had been underestimating human imagination. The Kraxan invasion fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system, their crystalline ships casting prismatic reflections across space. Instead of the chaos they expected, they found Earth's orbital lanes cleared and organized. Humanity had transformed their space stations into makeshift defensive positions in mere days. Fleet Commander Zyxra watched in disbelief as her first wave of fighters approached Earth's atmosphere. "Where is their panic? Their disarray?" she demanded, her bioluminescent markings pulsing with frustration. "They've had only days to prepare." The answer came in the form of a devastating surprise. As the Kraxan fighters entered the atmosphere, they were met not by primitive jet aircraft, but by swarms of small, automated drones. These machines, hastily adapted from civilian technology, moved in patterns that defied traditional combat algorithms. "They're using gaming AI." Lieutenant Mira exclaimed, her sensor arrays struggling to track the erratic movements. "These combat patterns, they're adapted from their entertainment software. Our predictive systems can't anticipate their movements because they're not following any standard military doctrine." The drones weren't particularly powerful, but they didn't need to be. They simply needed to disrupt the Kraxan formation long enough for the real surprise to take effect. As the alien ships twisted and turned, trying to target the agile Earth machines, they didn't notice the seemingly harmless electromagnetic pulses being broadcast from repurposed satellite dishes worldwide. Professor Rishi Patel, coordinating from a hastily established command center beneath the Indian Institute of Technology, allowed himself a small smile as the data streamed in. "The reversal is working," he announced to the Global Defense Network. "Every evasive maneuver they make tells us more about their shield harmonics." Around the world, teams of scientists and engineers worked in parallel, each approaching the problem from their unique cultural and technological perspectives. Japanese quantum computing experts collaborated with Brazilian chaos mathematicians, while Nigerian software developers worked alongside Canadian aerospace engineers. Every failed approach provided new data, and every small success was immediately shared globally. The Kraxans' first real shock came when their supposedly impenetrable shields began to fail. Humanity hadn't tried to overpower them, they had instead found the resonant frequencies that could disrupt the alien technology's underlying principles. It was an approach that would have taken a single research team years to develop, but Earth's distributed innovation network had solved it in days. "Impossible." Zyxra raged as another squadron reported shield failures. "Their technology level cannot support this level of adaptation." "They're not adapting their technology," her tactical officer reported grimly. "They're adapting their thinking. Look at these attack patterns, each human nation is approaching the problem differently, but they're instantly learning from each other's successes and failures. They're evolving their strategies in real time." The humans had turned their greatest weakness, their division into different nations and cultures, into an unprecedented strength. While the Kraxan military operated with perfect unity and standardization, humanity's various military forces each developed unique approaches to the battle. Chinese quantum disruption fields complemented Indian cyber warfare attacks, while European kinetic weapons supported African electromagnetic countermeasures. In orbit, the International Space Station had become an unlikely command center. Commander Janina Kowalski coordinated the Global Space Defense Initiative from what had been, just days ago, a scientific research facility. The beauty of having no standard protocol, she commented as she authorized another innovative defensive maneuver, is that we can try everything simultaneously. A particularly creative breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Thomas Williams, a music professor turned defense analyst, had noticed patterns in the Kraxan ship's energy emissions that matched certain harmonic principles. Working with a team of acoustical engineers and musicians, they developed a way to predict and disrupt the alien vessel's power distribution systems using principles derived from classical music theory. Their technology is too perfect, Williams explained during a global briefing. It operates on precise, mathematical principles. But human music has taught us that sometimes, the most powerful effects come from carefully planned imperfection, from jazz, not just classical. As the first day of actual combat drew to a close, the Kraxan fleet had lost a third of their atmospheric fighters and gained no significant ground. Their perfect battle plans had crumbled in the face of humanity's chaotic, multifaceted response. While individual human technologies might have been inferior, their combination of approaches created an emergent defense that was greater than the sum of its parts. In her command ship, ZWXRA received a transmission from Supreme Overlord Vexthor. His crystalline features showed signs of stress fractures, a sign of extreme anxiety in their species. The humans, he said without preamble, have begun broadcasting messages to our fleet. Not demands or pleas, they're sending us their stories, their movies, their games. Thousands of them, all showing different ways this conflict could end. Psychological warfare? ZWXRA suggested hopefully. No, Vexthor replied, his voice carrying an unfamiliar emotion, fear. They're showing us that they've imagined this moment in countless ways, and in their minds, they've already defeated us thousands of times. These aren't just stories anymore, they're battle plans, tested and refined in their collective imagination long before we arrived. As if to emphasize his point, another squadron of Kraxan fighters went dark, their systems compromised by yet another unexpected combination of human ingenuity and improvisation. The invasion had barely begun, but already the perfect military machine of the Kraxan Empire was being forced to confront an uncomfortable truth. They had prepared to fight a primitive civilization, but instead found themselves facing an enemy who had spent generations preparing for this exact moment, not through traditional military means, but through the power of human creativity and collaborative innovation. 3 weeks into what should have been a simple conquest, the Kraxan Empire faced an unprecedented situation. Their invasion force was being systematically dismantled by what they had dismissed as a primitive species. But the true horror, from their perspective, wasn't that they were losing, it was how they were losing. In the depths of a repurposed automotive factory in Detroit, Dr. Olivia Martinez stood before a captured Kraxan fighter craft, its crystalline structure now partially disassembled. Their technology isn't just advanced, she explained to the Global Research Consortium via holographic conference, it's fundamentally different. They built their entire civilization on crystal-based quantum computing, while we focused on silicon and carbon. They perfected one path, we explored thousands. The humans' technological inferiority had paradoxically become their greatest advantage. While the Kraxan had spent millennia perfecting a single technological lineage, humanity had maintained countless parallel lines of research and development. Now, they were combining these diverse approaches in ways the aliens had never imagined possible. Look at this, called out Dr. Ibrahim Hassan from his lab in Cairo, holding up what appeared to be a simple circuit board. We've combined our primitive semiconductor technology with their quantum crystalline structures. It shouldn't work, it's like mixing stone tools with antimatter. But because we never learned it was impossible, we did it anyway. The Kraxan watched in horror as humans began deploying hybrid weapons that combined Earth's crude, electromagnetic technology with reversed-engineered alien quantum systems. Traditional electronic warfare techniques, considered hopelessly obsolete by the Kraxan, proved devastatingly effective when combined with their own advanced technology in ways they had never considered. Admiral Naira, now leading the defensive action as the Kraxan fleet retreated to higher orbit, received increasingly desperate reports. "They're not just copying our technology," she reported to the Supreme Overlord. "They're mutating it. Every Earth nation approaches integration differently. The Americans brute force it, the Japanese miniaturize it, the Russians overwhelm it with raw power, the Indians rewrite its underlying logic, and then they share all their findings instantly." On Earth, the global defense network had evolved into something unprecedented in human history. Traditional military hierarchies had given way to a fluid, organic command structure that could adapt as quickly as the technology they were developing. Traditional rivals shared discoveries freely, each breakthrough becoming a building block for the next innovation. Lieutenant Kira Zhang, operating from a secret facility beneath Singapore's business district, led a team that exemplified this new paradigm. Her quantum computing experts worked alongside Brazilian street hackers, combining formal theoretical approaches with raw, intuitive creativity. The Kraxan's mistake, she observed, watching her team work, was achieving perfection. They stopped evolving because they thought they'd reached the peak. We never stopped climbing. In orbit, the International Defense Fleet, hastily assembled from converted civilian spacecraft and retrofitted with hybrid human Kraxan technology, began its first offensive operations. Captain James Okonjo, commanding the refitted space station Humanity's Hope, watched as his crews implemented battle strategies that would have been considered insane just months ago. "They expect us to fight like they do," he transmitted to the fleet. "Perfect formations, predictable patterns. Instead, we'll fight like humans, messy, creative, and unpredictable." The battle that followed defied every principle of space combat in the Kraxan military manual. Human ships executed maneuvers inspired by everything from bee swarms to jazz improvisation. Their hybrid weapons fired salvos that combined the raw power of Kraxan quantum technology with the pragmatic versatility of human engineering. But the true turning point came from an unexpected source. A team of video game developers in South Korea, working with quantum physicists and military strategists, had created a neural network based on centuries of human combat gaming. This AI didn't try to match the Kraxan's perfect tactical calculations. Instead, it introduced controlled chaos into the battlefield, creating opportunities that human intuition could exploit. Supreme Overlord Vexthor, watching another battle group fall to this incomprehensible combination of primitive and advanced technology, finally understood their fatal error. The Kraxan had spent millennia becoming the perfect warriors, but in doing so, they had become predictable. Humans, with their messy, redundant, inefficient approach to progress, had developed something far more powerful: adaptability. "They should have been easy to defeat," he lamented to his council. "Their technology was inferior, their species divided, their methods chaotic. But those weren't weaknesses, they were weapons we never saw coming." On Earth, another breakthrough emerged. Dr. Martinez's team had discovered how to use human neural patterns to control Kraxan quantum systems, something the aliens had never attempted because their crystalline biology was incompatible. Human consciousness, with its inherent quantum properties, could interface with the alien technology in ways its creators couldn't imagine. "Everything they saw as our failures were actually our strengths," Dr. Martinez explained as the first hybrid fighters launched. "Our divisions forced us to develop multiple solutions to every problem. Our technological limitations forced us to remain creative. Our chaotic nature made us impossible to predict. We weren't less advanced than the Kraxan, we were advanced in a way their perfect, crystalline minds couldn't comprehend." As the third month of the invasion drew to a close, humanity wasn't just surviving, they were revolutionizing warfare itself. The Kraxan's perfect empire faced a species that turned every defeat into a lesson, every setback into an opportunity, and every technological gap into a chance for innovation. The tide hadn't just turned, it had transformed into something entirely new, much like humanity itself. In the crystalline chambers of the Kraxan flagship, Supreme Overlord Vexthor faced the hardest decision of his 5-century rule. Before him, holographic displays showed an impossible sight: human ships, retrofitted with hybrid technology, pushing his forces back across the solar system. But what truly disturbed him wasn't the military defeat, it was the cultural transmission they'd begun receiving from Earth. "They're broadcasting their culture to our fleet," Intelligence Director Krell reported, his usual composure shattered. "Not just their military capabilities or technological achievements, they're sharing their art, their music, their stories. Our crews, they're watching them. Learning from them. Being changed by them." The humans had discovered something no other species had realized in their encounters with the Kraxen: the Empire's greatest weakness wasn't military or technological, it was conceptual. Their crystalline minds, for all their computational power, were structured in rigid, unchanging patterns. Human consciousness, with its fluid, adaptable nature, represented something entirely new. On Earth, the Global Cultural Integration Initiative had taken shape alongside the military resistance. Dr. Leila Patel, a cognitive anthropologist working from a research center in Mumbai, led the effort to understand why human creativity proved so devastating to Kraxen systems. "Their technology is based on perfect crystalline structures," she explained to the United Nations Emergency Council. "But human consciousness, our art, our dreams, our stories, they operate like water, like chaos, like jazz. We're introducing quantum uncertainty into their perfect lattices." The evidence was undeniable. When human pilots interfaced with captured Kraxen ships, they didn't just operate them, they transformed them. The crystalline vessels began exhibiting properties that should have been impossible, responding to human intuition and creativity in ways their original designers had never imagined. In orbit, aboard the hybrid command vessel Prometheus, Captain Rodrigo Vargas witnessed this transformation firsthand. His crew, a multinational mix of soldiers, scientists, and civilians, had learned to merge human intuition with Kraxen quantum systems. The result was something entirely new: technology that could adapt and evolve in real time. "Each culture brings something unique to the integration," Vargas noted in his command log. "Our Japanese crew members approach it with Zen precision, the Nigerians with rhythmic intuition, the Russians with bold improvisation. Together, we're not just using their technology, we're teaching it to dance." But the most profound impact came from an unexpected source. The Global Entertainment Network, initially established to maintain morale, had evolved into a vast creative engine. Artists, writers, and dreamers worldwide began producing works that merged human and Kraxen aesthetics, creating new forms of expression that affected both species on a quantum level. Aboard the Kraxen vessels, something unprecedented began to occur. The crystalline crew members, exposed to human creativity through captured broadcasts, started experiencing something alien to their perfect, ordered minds: imagination. The rigid patterns of their consciousness began to show signs of flexibility, of adaptation. "Their physiological structure is actually changing," reported Dr. Marcus Wong from his laboratory in Vancouver. "The crystalline matrices of their bodies are developing new configurations, inspired by exposure to human creative patterns. They're literally being transformed by our stories." This revelation sent shockwaves through the Kraxen High Command. Their perfect empire, built on unchanging crystalline principles, faced not just military defeat but existential transformation. The humans weren't just winning the war, they were rewriting the rules of consciousness itself. Lieutenant Naira, monitoring the cultural transmissions, detected a pattern in the human broadcasts. "They're not just sharing random entertainment," she realized. "They're telling stories about cooperation, about different species learning from each other. Stories about transformation and growth. They're not trying to defeat us, they're trying to evolve us." The impact on Kraxen society was profound. Younger crew members, more exposed to human cultural transmissions, began exhibiting unprecedented behaviors. They asked questions. They suggested alternatives. They began to imagine, a concept so foreign to their species that they had no word for it in their language. Professor Gene Park, leading a xenolinguistics team in Seoul, made a startling discovery. The Kraxan language is changing, he reported. They're developing new terms, new concepts, borrowed from human languages. Words for maybe, for dream, for what if. They're learning to think like us. Back on Earth, the Global Defense Network observed another unexpected development. The Kraxan ships that had been exposed longest to human cultural transmissions began moving differently. Their perfect formations showed signs of improvisation. Their attack patterns incorporated elements of human unpredictability. We're not just changing their technology, Dr. Patel observed. We're changing their consciousness. Our greatest weapon wasn't our adaptability or our technology, it was our ability to imagine new possibilities and share those visions with others. As the fourth month of the conflict drew to a close, humanity's victory seemed assured, but not in the way anyone had expected. The Kraxan Empire, which had conquered 17 star systems through perfect, unchanging strength, was being transformed by exposure to human consciousness. Their rigid, crystalline perfection was giving way to something new, the ability to imagine change, to dream of different possibilities, to create rather than just execute. The invasion had become an evolution, and humanity's greatest triumph wasn't defeating their enemy, it was teaching them how to grow. 6 months after the Kraxan Empire launched what they thought would be a simple conquest, Supreme Overlord Vexthor stood before the Galactic Council, his crystalline form showing signs of unprecedented change. Iridescent patterns rippled across his surface, a physical manifestation of something that had previously been impossible for his species, adaptation. We came to conquer Earth, he addressed the assembled representatives of 1,000 star systems, but instead, we discovered something far more valuable than territory. We discovered evolution itself. The council chamber, with its ancient quantum crystalline architecture, hummed with tension. The Kraxan Empire's transformation had sent shockwaves through galactic civilization. Their perfect, unchanging nature had been a cornerstone of galactic politics for millennia. Now, they had become something else entirely. On Earth, the Global Integration Command had gathered in the newly constructed Unity Tower in Geneva. Dr. Layla Patel, now serving as Earth's first xenocultural ambassador, prepared humanity's first formal address to the Galactic Council. Behind her, screens displayed real-time data from the ongoing transformation of both human and Kraxan civilization. Our victory, she began, her words translated into 1,000 alien languages, wasn't winning a war. Our victory was proving that evolution doesn't end with technological perfection. It continues through imagination, through creativity, through the courage to imagine something better than perfection. The evidence was undeniable. The hybrid technology born from the conflict had already revolutionized galactic science. Human consciousness, merged with Kraxan quantum systems, had created something entirely new, technology that could learn, adapt, and grow. But more importantly, it had created a new way of thinking. Admiral Naira, her crystalline form now shimmering with previously impossible colors, presented the scientific data to the council. The humans didn't just change our technology, she explained. They changed our consciousness. Their stories, their art, their endless capacity to imagine new possibilities, they awakened something that had been dormant in crystalline species for eons, the ability to dream. The transformation wasn't one-sided. Humanity had been changed just as profoundly by the encounter. The integration of Kraxan quantum principles with human creativity had led to breakthroughs not just in technology, but in consciousness itself. Humans had learned to think with crystalline clarity while maintaining their chaotic creativity. Professor Gene Park, addressing the council remotely from the New Earth Kraxan Cultural Exchange Center in Seoul, demonstrated how language itself had evolved. We've developed new forms of communication that merge human metaphor with Kraxan quantum precision, he explained. We can now express concepts that neither species could have conceived of alone. But perhaps the most profound change was philosophical. The Kraxan Empire, which had sought to impose perfect order on the galaxy, had discovered the power of imperfection. Their rigid hierarchy had given way to something more fluid, more adaptive. They had learned from humanity that strength comes not from unchanging perfection, but from the ability to grow, to change, to imagine new possibilities. Captain Rodrigo Vargas, now commanding the first joint human Craxan exploration vessel, sent back reports that captured this transformation. His crew, a mixture of humans and Craxan, had developed new ways of thinking that were neither purely human nor purely crystalline. They dreamed with quantum precision and calculated with creative intuition. "We're not just exploring space anymore," he reported. "We're exploring consciousness itself. Every encounter between our species creates new possibilities, new ways of thinking, new forms of existence." The Galactic Council, faced with this unprecedented transformation, had to evolve as well. The old hierarchies, based on technological advancement and military might, no longer made sense in a galaxy where consciousness itself could evolve. New frameworks emerged, centered on the capacity for growth, adaptation, and creative transformation. Dr. Marcus Wong, presenting his findings on consciousness evolution, summed up the profound implications. The universe isn't a puzzle to be solved or a territory to be conquered. It's a canvas for imagination, a space for dreams to become reality. The Craxan taught us the power of perfection, we taught them the perfection of change. As the Council deliberated on humanity's application for full membership, Supreme Overlord Vexthor, now bearing the new title of Evolution Guide, made an unprecedented proposal. "Let Earth become not just a member of our galactic community," he declared, his crystalline form resonating with new possibilities, but a teacher. "Let them show us how to dream, how to imagine, how to become more than we are." The response came not in words but in a new form of communication, a quantum neural network that merged human creativity with crystalline precision. Across the galaxy, species that had long since achieved technological perfection began to remember how to dream. The rigid hierarchies of galactic civilization gave way to something new, a civilization based not on power or perfection, but on the endless possibility of evolution. And on Earth, as humans looked up at the stars, they no longer saw a frontier to be conquered or a threat to be feared. They saw a canvas for their dreams, a space for stories yet to be told, for possibilities yet to be imagined. The invasion that was meant to end their civilization had instead launched them into a new era, not as conquerors or conquered, but as teachers of the most powerful force in the universe, the ability to imagine something better than perfection.